With your local Farm Bureau insurance agent in any of the 82 counties in the state of Mississippi. Favorites.com to get a quote in 4 minutes or less. Our CWS coverage is also brought to you by Mississippi Ag with 16 locations. Manage your land with a John Deere tractor from Mississippi Ag. Visit agup.com to find a retail location nearest you. We're live in the Bank Plus studio, Out of Bounds, ESPN, 105.9 The Zone. Our guests join us on the Modelo guest line. We welcome in National College Baseball Analyst with ESPN and the SEC Network, KP, Kyle Peterson. Kyle, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. I don't think it's quite as good as your entire state is, but I'm doing just fine.
That's true. Hey, I'd like for you understand college baseball and Mississippi State baseball. I'd like for you to share your thoughts on what Chris Lemonis just accomplished. He talked about even an hour ago with us, but he's mentioned it before. His colleagues in the business when he was hired said, man, you're walking into a pressure cooker. I mean, it's a great program, and they packed the park, and it's the most committed fan base in all of college baseball, and they've done it all, but win it all, and that was the elephant in the room. Can you, as someone who covers college baseball 365 days a year, and your alma mater has won several national championships, can you share your thoughts on Lemonis taking the job and finally getting it done?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the taking the job piece, you understand what you're walking into, and you are walking into that. You are walking into a situation that, half the eyes of the state, I mean, not quite that, but whatever. I mean, it's a dominant fan base within the sport, and with dominant fan base comes a few different things. One is an incredible amount of support, attendance, environment, everything that comes with the positives. But the challenges are you got to win, and the two don't come without the other. It's just the way that the world works. And so, I think Chris came into this as eyes wide open as anybody could, even though he didn't play in the conference and hadn't necessarily coached in the conference before that, but I think he understood what he was walking into. And now you find yourself in a situation that I don't even really – I was trying to think of football comparisons and other things. I'm not sure what it would be. I mean, in our state, do you go back to the first national championship that Tom Osborne won? Maybe similar to that, because the Nebraska football fan base – even now still, but definitely in the 80s and the 90s was, I would say, similar to what Mississippi State's fan base is for baseball.
Yeah.
And I know the way that this state operates when it comes to that sport, and I think state is very similar when it comes to baseball. So, yeah, I mean, for Chris and Goat and Scott and Cheese, I mean, I cannot imagine what their lives, and not just for the next few months, but what their lives in that state are going to be like forever now.
Tanner, you've covered some unbelievable players, dude qualities, guys that have, to a certain extent, I know it takes so many different players, but willed their team to a championship and were able to perform on the biggest stage, which is the CWS and Omaha, Nebraska. Talk about what it was like to cover and watch Tanner Allen perform on the biggest stage.
Well, it was awesome. I mean, I would group him and Rowdy together, honestly. And I know that they're different players and the skill sets are a little bit different, but I think the two of them they just really feed off of each other from a personality standpoint, from a leadership standpoint. And what they have, which is what your best need to have, is they want to be in that environment. They want to be the guy that's at the plate when it matters. They want to be in the environment when the fans are going crazy. They want the expectations. And if your leaders aren't wired that way, I don't care how good they are. If your leaders and your best players aren't wired that way, when you get to moments like that, you have issues. And I mean, it's not going to work, but I think you have less of a chance of success than if you have guys like Rowdy and Tanner that want to live in that environment, that want to play in those situations. And I think that's the biggest thing. I look at what those guys did all the way through the course of the year, and Tanner's numbers were a little bit better, but it's just a rarity. It's a rarity in sports to have two that hit at the top of the order, that are your leaders, that are so consistent the entire year. And the other thing is that aren't battling each other for headlines. You know? Like neither one of them, all right, if it's his day, if it's my day, it means it doesn't, I don't care. It's our day. And from a leadership standpoint, man, it's just, you combine all those things and it's a lot of rarities build up into two guys. And I don't think it's much of a surprise that they were two of them that were leading the way.
Kyle Peterson, KP on the Out of Bounds show in the Modelo guest line, national college baseball analyst with ESPN. Kyle, where does Bednar's 3-game performance stack up with other College World Series starting pitchers?
It's got to be up there. I mean, I would somewhat defer to Jeremy Mills, who's and Lee Singer, our two researchers at ESPN that historically, I mean, they could spin off 10 names to you right away and say it's similar to this guy and this guy and this guy. And you go back, Jason Windsor had a run like this for Fullerton when they won it. Abel's run a few years ago for Oregon State reminds me a lot of this. But it didn't feel like anybody had to swing and miss consistently. And I know he didn't have as much of it the last day, which is understandable given just the innings that he had pitched, but the dominance was amazing. And I throw him into the category, and Sims into the category that Tanner and Rowdy are, just as far as wanting that environment. I mean, there are certain guys that when they go out, you just see it. You see how much they appreciate the ability to compete in an environment like that. And Bednar's got it, and Sims has it. And really their lineup, I mean, I wouldn't say just Rowdy and Tanner, but it's a result of playing in the environment that they play in every week. I mean, if that's not who you are, Duty Noble's going to weed you out over time. That place is going to weed you out over time. And then when you come into an environment like they were in the other day, you can almost trick yourself. You're playing at home. There just happens to be another 10,000 people there. And it feels like Bednar has that ability.
I thought your tweet was awesome on the Hail State fan base. You've been out there. You covered the event for a long time. There are some other unbelievable fan bases that go out and attend that amazing sporting event. And you've talked about it before, but talk about how many Mississippi State fans either stayed the whole time or went out there, came back home, and went back. But just talk about not just the attendance, but their edge on the edge of the seat mentality of the Hail State baseball fan base, KP.
It's just so passionate. I mean, and I really, I do, having grown up when Nebraska football was in its heyday. I mean, in the 90s, and seeing that fan base and seeing the state stop on football Saturday, because, Nebraska's the only Division I football program in the state. There are a lot of similarities. And, historically, if you would go see Nebraska play in the Orange Bowl, there was a sea of red wherever you went. State's baseball fan base is very similar for me. It's a dedication to, I don't know, appreciating the history of what's come before it and the environment that they helped create. And it's rare. It's rare. I've never seen more people for a school here ever. And, LSU's had some incredible runs. Arkansas brought a ton a few years ago, and it was loud. I don't think I've ever seen this many people. Now, Arkansas may have had the same amount or close to it. And I'm not drawing this one's better than that one's better than that one. It's not. They're three of the best fan bases in our sport. But, man, just the intensity and the dedication and talking to your fan base when they're here, because I keep a room at the Hilton when we're there, because that's where we end up staying and stay down there a few nights, but just kind of work out of it. And so I was immersed in it every day. I mean, the little kids running around, I know what floor State's on, come with me. And there wasn't just one that said it, there was a bunch. It's pretty incredible. I mean, I will tell you this, if you had no affiliation to sports, had no idea what was going on in the city, and you walked into that hotel, man, you'd have immediately gone, I need to understand what Mississippi State baseball is, because these people are crazy in the best possible way. And thank God they care that much, because it makes the entire sport better.
KP, Kyle Peterson on the Modelo guest line talking college baseball, Mississippi State's first national title, 2021 national champs. You're listening to ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Tim Corbin, boy, I thought his post game was impressive. You know how he talked about Mississippi State, but he talked about the toughness and the grit, and went on and on about their two-strike approach. Talk about that, KP.
Well, it's a rarity right now in college sports, and it's something that Jake and Lem take a lot of pride in, and they should. You always see those kids kind of pound their chest when they have two strikes, and it's an offensive mentality. I mean, if you go look at the strikeout numbers at Mississippi State, I mean, in just a direct comparison, you go look at the strikeout numbers for Vanderbilt, there's a pretty stark difference. And I think that for somebody like Tim, that's probably been his offensive mentality for most of his life, is that, and has maybe allowed his offense to go to a little bit more of the, okay, we can live with the strikeout mentality, to see it on the other side for 3 straight days, and to see the positive impact that it had the last 2 days, and then to look inward and see the way that their offense struggled, and their offense did struggle. I would assume that's something that he'll give a lot of thought to, and Mike Baxter will in the offseason, just about their offensive approach when it gets to 2 strikes. It becomes a mentality, and Goat has them really believing in it. And the reality of it is when it works once or twice, when you shorten up and a flare lands over somebody's head, they still have the ability to hit home runs with 2 strikes. It's not like they're going up, choking up, leaning over the plate, trying to get hit. It's just a mental understanding to try to minimize the strikeout. And obviously it's had huge impacts. And I think it has huge mental impacts up and down that lineup. It gives them a true identity.
And don't you think it wears on the fielders of the other team?
Yeah, well, yeah, it wears on the field. It also wears on the pitcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if there's nothing more frustrating on the mound than a foul ball, because usually, in most cases, it means, hey, I'm in a pretty good pitch, and the guy spoiled it. Now, there's sometimes that you miss a one right down the middle, and they foul it off, and it's a gift. But more times than not, a foul ball, if you're going to grade victories, a foul ball probably leans more towards a victory for the offense than it is for the guy on the mound. And so there gets to be a mental wear on the mound if you get a team that's fouling a bunch of pitches up. One, your pitch count goes up, but two, the inability to finish guys off can wear on you over time.
Yeah. KP, Cal Peterson on the Out of Bounds show. Lamonis joined us an hour ago. He talked about the conservative approach that he and Foxhall had with their pitchers to not wear them down February, March, April, May, and how that allowed Bednar, Sims, Preston Johnson, and others to pitch their way through this, brutal schedule of the CWS. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, we had talked to Chris about it earlier in the season, and Scott about it earlier in the season, and they specifically pointed out with Sims, the strikeout numbers are huge, but he's not, at least at the time, it wasn't like 3 innings was the norm for him. They were spacing him out a lot more, and the thought was, we think he's going to be as fresh as possible at the end of the season. Now, it helps when you have the depth that they have in their bullpen, because you are a lot more comfortable spreading innings around over the course of the regular season. But I think innings management with the entirety of their pitching staff, I mean, Bednar didn't have that many innings at the end of the year. So to be able to spin and do what he did, I don't remember my stat sheet in front of me, but if I remember going into that final game, I think he still had less than 100 innings pitched. My freshman season, I pitched 145 innings.
Good grief.
I can tell you what it felt like at the end of the year. And it wasn't like we weren't playing more games. We played the same amount of games. So if you can do that, when you get to the point to where you got to ask a kid, hey, are you comfortable going on 3 days? There's a lot left in the tank. And, it doesn't always mean that you're going to be 2 of the last ones standing to where it can benefit you that much. But I think it proved to benefit them a lot this year.
Kellum Clark, they think he can be
Yeah.
a pretty special player.
Yeah.
What do you see? He's still really young, KP. What do you see in Kellum Clark?
I mean, you see a powerful, sweet left-handed swing that if you were going to go out and grab a kid at 8 years old and say go emulate a swing, that's what you do. There's just certain guys that you look at the stats and you look at the swing and you go, yeah, it's coming, and it's going to be there. And barring something unforeseen, he's going to hit a lot of home runs and he's going to make a lot of money because the swing works. I mean, listen, the kid came into the College World Series with, 3 home runs on the season, maybe 4. I mean, I don't. It's somewhere right around there. He hit 2. He missed another one by 2 feet.
He did.
And it is a swing that profiles of, left-handed power hitter. It's got the ability to go as high in the draft. Now, we'll see positionally. Obviously, I think. I mean, I only saw him as a DH this year. I don't know if he played any positions in the games that I didn't have, but that'll be the question. But man, I mean, when you get Forsythe as good as he is defensively at shortstop and some bat, if you get any bat out of Forsythe, because he just makes you better defending. And James is going to be a star. Tanner's going to be a star. Yeah, the cover's not exactly bare for the guys you have coming back.
KP, Kyle Peterson on ESPN 105.9 The Zone talking Hail State baseball. You had one of the best quotes a couple of years ago when I asked you about Jake Mangum, and somebody questioned whether or not he could play pro ball, and you laughed, and you said, I'm not going to tell that kid he can't do something. Tanner Allen is not the prototypical, body necessarily either, but he's got that grit, dirtbag dog in him that Cohen has developed in this program the last 10 or 12 years. KP, what do you see with TA moving forward?
He's a guy that just from I don't know, if you look at a pro wish list, to any one of the the hit tool plays. The hit tool is going to play tomorrow. The feet work. It's not blazing speed, but the feet work. Defensively, good enough, especially for a corner outfield position. Power, we'll see. I think that ultimately Tanner's just going to need to. He's going to need to hit his way through a system, and that's not a negative. I mean, he's going to get popped here early. So, I mean, pro teams like him. Believe me, they really like him. Do they like him in the first round? No. But, I don't think it's going to be but a few rounds after that somebody takes him. But I would be more surprised to not see him play in the big leagues than surprised to see him play in the big leagues. I would say that. Now, does he go up and play for 3-4 years as kind of a journeyman outfielder? Is he a guy that can stick and get you 10 to 12 years in the outfield? I don't know. But I'll take my chances with him. Yeah. I know that. I will take my chances with him, and ultimately I think you're going to see a team that's going to say, listen, we believe in you, and we're going to push you through a system until, unless you give us some reason not to do it. But I don't think they're going to have a reason to not do it.
Yeah. KP, Kyle Peterson on the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. KP, great job covering college baseball and a hell of an ambassador for the sport of college baseball. Appreciate everything you do. Thank you so much for your time this year. It was good to meet you in Omaha, and we'll catch up again soon, man.
All good. Enjoy it down there. You've earned it.
Thanks, bud.
See you guys.
KP, Kyle Peterson, National College Baseball Analyst with ESPN and the SEC Network. KP joined us on the Modelo guest line. Blake Scott, that was a heck of a lineup today with Chris Lamona, Steve Robertson, and Kyle Peterson.
Yes, sir, that was correct. And also, to piggyback off what you just asked Kyle Peterson, so I talked to I can't drop his name because he told me off the record, talked to a scout behind the plate who works with an AL West team in Major League Baseball, and I asked him, I said, is Tanner Allen a Major League Baseball player? And he said, absolutely. So just to piggyback on what Kyle Peterson said.
Do you remember when we asked KP about Jake Mangum?
Because everybody wants to know.
Or he chuckled, and he said, really?
Yeah.
Who's going to walk in the room and tell him,
no, you can't be one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Tanner Allen's the same way.
There's books written. We get this prototypical of what we want, and different industries and blah, 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 and so on, and especially in sports. And when you have the dog in you, whatever you want to call it,
Yep.
the grit and all the stuff that, again, we roll our eyes about when our coaches or parents tell us that growing up.
Yeah.
But there is something to it. And, man, Rowdy Jordan, unbelievable career, Blake. Played day one. And great player in the field, great player at the plate.
Yeah.
And
both these kids played day one. That's part of the legacy of who they are, is that they played a full 4-year career. Obviously, they missed a year because of COVID, so they only played 3 years. But they had a full 4-year tenure in Starkville, and that affects – we talked about – that's part of Mangum's legacy. It's also part of theirs. And this is a – look, I get that this is a loaded question, and I love dropping it right before we leave so that we can't answer it. But there is now legitimate debate around whether or not this duo is the best duo in Mississippi State baseball history. Not the best players, not the best individual talent, but the best duo in Mississippi State history because they took it home and finished the deal.
Yeah.
There's thunder and lightning. I think now you're going to have heart and soul because that's who Tanner Allen and Rowdy Jordan were.
I agree.
They were heart and soul of the team that broke the streak. They broke the drought, and that will live in eternity in Starkville.
Yep. I thought Lamonis nailed it with the Chicago Cubs analogy.
Yeah, 100 years of heartbreak.
Yeah.
Same feeling. Absolutely.
And Kyle Peterson nailed it with the Nebraska. For years, Tom Osborne was going 10-1, 11-1.
But not sealing the deal.
But not sealing the deal.
Yeah.
But Lamonis talking about, he I guess he told people, if they ever win it, it will be like when the Cubs won the World Series.
And you could see in the stadium, I saw tears everywhere.
No doubt.
Fans, players, coaches, it didn't matter. It was incredible.
Hey, how about when we dropped that Jake Mangum audio? People were on the text line like, all right, I'm crying.
Someone sent us a picture of their arm with goosebumps in the car. That's pretty cool. I don't think we still understand what this means yet. I think it's going to take time.
It'll take a while. It'll take a while. But we'll talk about it for a long time. That is for sure. Hey, thanks for listening to the Out of Bounds show on ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Shout out to two of our awesome Stark Vegas sponsors, Two Brothers Smoke Meats. Great place to dine and eat, hang out. Two Brothers. Shout out to T-Pal and everybody there. Also, Welcome Home Beef. Great selection of steaks, hamburger meat, so on. And we'll be adding to that list sooner than later. If you missed any of the show, please go to Apple Podcasts and search the Out of Bounds show. Would love for you to hit subscribe. That'd be awesome for us. So if you missed any of the show, go to Apple Podcasts and search the Out of Bounds show and hit subscribe. Thanks for listening. Happy 4th. We'll see you next week.